Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to our Parental Rights Day press conference, otherwise known as Mama Bear Day. My name is Rebecca Mess, and I'm the proud mother of 3 children who have been coming up through the Hanover County Public School System since 2013. I'm also pleased to serve as the volunteer director of Speak Up Hanover, which is part of the Family Foundation's larger statewide Speak Up Virginia movement. The Speak Up movement is all about ensuring that moms and dads and local citizens are empowered to have a voice from their local school board all the way up to the state capitol. Today, we are challenging our representatives to respect parental rights in key legislation and to vote against efforts that undermine or eradicate these long-held rights. Whether it's timely notification of drug overdoses at school, empowering parents to protect girls in locker rooms and sports, or respecting homeschooling freedoms, the best way to ensure Virginia kids thrive is to empower us to protect them while at school and to uphold our constitutionally protected rights to direct their education in a way that will meet their unique needs, as only we know our children best. The problem is too many leaders in the Virginia General Assembly are going in the exact opposite direction. They've refused measures that would put parents back into the education process, and worse, they've supported policies that push them out. We're here today to say your actions have not gone unnoticed, and we'll never give up on efforts to protect the bodies, hearts, and minds of our children at school. Parental rights are common sense. To that end, you'll be hearing stories today from parents across the state who will share how these issues have personally impacted their families. You'll also hear from a legislator who will address timely bills and explain efforts to restore parents' basic abilities to protect their kids while opposing measures that undermine their rights. The bottom line is this: our government officials need to stop treating parents as a mere afterthought, or even worse, as enemies of the education process. Rather, they should respect the vital role parents play and involve us in these critical issues. Without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce our first speaker today, Senator Glenn Sturtevant, who has been a strong advocate and supporter of parents having a voice on all of these core issues. Thank you, Senator.
Thanks, Becca, and I'm very impressed that you kids are all being so well behaved. My kids would never stand this still for this long, so good job. But good morning, and thanks everybody for being here. Glenn Sturtevant, I represent Chesterfield and Colonial Heights in the state Senate, and wanted to talk about a few bills that have come up this session, some that have already been killed, unfortunately, some that are still working their way through the process. I want to talk about the good news first. I'm carrying a piece of legislation this year that comes out of an issue that arose in Loudoun County Public Schools about a year ago, where you had almost a dozen high school kids have overdoses from taking some sort of drug, which they shouldn't have been doing, obviously, but they had a really bad reaction to it. And we learned that parents weren't being notified. And as a parent of a high schooler, you want to know if there's something like that going on in your child's school, because these kids these days have access to a lot of things that are very, very dangerous. And the drugs like fentanyl have the ability to take lives very, very quickly. And so I've got a bill that requires all of our school systems across the entire Commonwealth that if there is a suspected student drug overdose, that the entire school system, all parents, have to be notified, and they have to be told the name of the school where it happened, so that you find out specifically if it's your child's school. You then know, okay, time to have another conversation with my child about the things that are out there that can hurt them. And so that legislation thankfully passed unanimously through the state Senate, 40-0, and so it's going over to the House after crossover, and we'll continue to fight for that legislation there. Another good thing, started out as a very, very bad bill, but we were able to kill a lot of the bad parts of it yesterday. It was a bill that would essentially enshrine in Virginia law the right of children, minors, to get what some call gender-affirming care, transgender surgeries, hormones, medications. And that was a bill that passed out of the Education and Health Committee in the Senate, came to the floor of the Virginia Senate, and in there, it would have codified in Virginia law that even children, no matter age, there are no age restrictions, could go and get these puberty blockers, hormones, surgeries. And so we saw on the floor that bill was getting passed by for the day last week. And in legislator speak, that means usually somebody doesn't have enough votes to pass the bill on the floor. And so I raised that issue on Friday, that we noticed that the entire week they'd been passing this bad bill by for the day. And so I raised the hope that perhaps there was some bipartisan feeling on this. This was a bad policy for Virginia. We did not want to have in the Virginia Code that even minors can get these transgender surgeries. And so yesterday, there was a substitute put in place on the floor in place of this bill that struck all of that bad language about the minors and the so-called gender-affirming care for minors. So we got that out of there. They kept some bad things in there, and it's still not a good bill, but we did. The good news is that we were able to get the really, really bad stuff out of there. Third thing I know that I'm sure is very important to many of you, and Family Foundation and other organizations did a phenomenal job lobbying against this bill, was the anti-homeschool parent bill. My understanding that got killed in committee last week, and I can tell you from talking to my colleagues down here and watching my own email inbox, there was no bill that got more feedback from the people, from the citizens, than that anti-homeschool bill. And so I think we had a lot of people realize that this was not going to be a good policy for Virginia also, and so that's now gone for this year, but it's something we're going to have to watch for next year and years forward. And then lastly, common sense privacy, protecting girls' locker rooms, bathrooms, sports teams. There have been bills to do that this year. As far as I know, they've all been killed on party lines in committee. That is a fight that continues. I know that when a lot of this gender ideology legislation first started coming up, to Family Foundation's credit, they were there at the forefront speaking against those bills, saying this is going to allow men to go into women and girls' locker rooms and bathrooms. And you had people who supported that legislation saying, no, that's never going to happen. And then just a couple of weeks ago, you may have all seen the story about the man who identifies as a woman going into the Washington and Lee pool locker room, women's locker room up in Arlington County, and it turns out he was arrested for that, thankfully. But it turns out he had done the same thing in Fairfax at a Planet Fitness and been arrested there, but the prosecutor in Fairfax dropped those charges, and so he was able to go and do it again. So this is a real problem. It is common sense that girls should play on girls' sports teams and boys should play on boys' sports teams, and yet we are down here spending a lot of time and effort trying to uphold that common sense policy. So that fight continues. Thankfully, we've got a good partner in the White House now, issuing executive orders and common sense policies to help put those protections in place. But that is why this year's November elections are extraordinarily critical. 'Cause the one thing I didn't even talk about is the pro-abortion constitutional amendment that is flying through the General Assembly. Again, that passed pretty much on party lines, I think on straight party lines. But it is so radical that it's really hard to wrap your mind around it. It will get rid of, In Virginia law, it has always been the case that for a minor to seek an abortion, she has to get parental consent. Even this constitutional amendment goes beyond that, throws that out. Even Roe v. Wade said that the state had an interest in regulating abortion in the third trimester. This throws that out the window. So this is, they say it's codifying Roe v. Wade, not even close. It's way, way far beyond that. And so, to circle back to where I started, this November's elections, we've got the General Assembly, the House of Delegates. All 100 members of the House of Delegates are up for election. If we can win a majority in the House of Delegates, we can stop that amendment next year, because it's got to pass 2 years in a row before it goes on the ballot as a referendum. And the governor doesn't have an opportunity to veto or amend constitutional amendments. That's just a legislative issue. So really, for November, the governor's race is important, but for that amendment specifically, the House of Delegates is critical. But we've got the governor and the lieutenant governor and the attorney general on the ballot again this November, and just extraordinarily critical elections for the future of Virginia, because I know as family foundations and other pro-family groups tell you, there's a lot of legislation going on down here that if we didn't have Glenn Youngkin in the governor's mansion, we would be in a very, very tough spot. So we got to win, and we got to win big. But winning, part of that is having you all here behind us, advocating, speaking to these issues, speaking to legislators. So thank you for doing that, and thank you to Family Foundation for being a huge help and partner as well. So I got to go to caucus, but just want to commend you all and keep praying for us, and we're praying for you, okay? Thank you all.
Thank you, Senator. I'd now like to welcome Rhonda Williams, a mother of 3 from Newport News. Rhonda?
Well, good morning. Thank you all for coming out again and supporting our children and supporting our parental rights. We need you. My name is Rhonda Williams, and I do have 3 children, 2 of which are in the Newport News school systems. And I'm here on behalf of the parents and many of those in our community who have concerns with the well-being of our children. We continue to ask that our parental rights not be ignored. We continue to ask for hot communication, honest, open, and transparent. Our message is very clear. We want to be included and not excluded. Today, we are here arguing for legislators to support Senator Sturtevant's Senate Bill 1240. That ensures that schools notify parents within 24 hours of any drug overdoses among the students on campus. Virginia law is still very vague in this area. It leaves it up to the school board to decide how and when to inform parents. Parents should be notified immediately of any school-related overdoses, just as is if there were any other medical emergency that happens on school grounds. Please hear us well. Representatives, legislators, please hear us. We want 24-hour notifications of any school-related overdoses. You, our schools, should have one voice with the parents. You're our eyes and our ears when we're not there. Communication should be transparent and open. We want to be informed so we, the parent, can inform our children and warn them of the dangers of drugs and also help our children deal with any trauma that comes associated with these issues that they face. We never want what happened in Loudoun County to happen again. School officials waited more than 20 days to notify parents of multiple overdoses that happened on their campuses. That's unacceptable. Give parents the opportunity and the choice to have the conversation with their own children about these important issues. When you exclude the parents, the choice has already been made for us. It's actually been taken from us. It is not the school's job to keep vital information from parents. Too many schools in our region have resisted policy that address these problems, and many parents have lost trust in the school system and the government as a whole. So please help us gain our trust back, put legislation in place that will keep parents informed and benefit our children and their futures. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. And now we have Callie Weichbrot, a Fairfax County mother of two. Come on up, Callie.
It's okay. Hi. Hi, I'm Kaylee Weichbrot. I'm a mom of two in Fairfax County. This is my oldest. And my husband and I have a difficult decision to make this fall as he is approaching preschool age, and we are faced with the decision of whether or not we are going to put our child in public school system where Fairfax County has decided to move forward with instituting gender studies in elementary school. Despite having done a study group, a focus group in the community to see if parents even wanted this. And when parents said no, the board voted 16-0 and said we're moving forward anyways. This shows clearly that they see parents not as partners, but as an obstacle for their agenda. And I have a really hard time looking at him and going, here, I'm just going to give you over to people who do not want to partner with me in how you're going to be raised. School and education is a huge part of a child's life. And early childhood is supposed to be filled with exploration and creativity and fun, not debating issues that are for adults to handle. These kinds of topics should be introduced sensitively and by parents who are raising their children with their values, not with an ideology passed down from the top. And so this isn't about discrimination. This is about age appropriateness. This is about parents being parents and the school being the support system to parents that it was created to be. Parents should be in more of a influential role in the school systems. We're looking for open dialogue. We're looking to be heard and listened to, not just to hear our concerns, but to do something about them. So my vision for, hold on, you're doing a great job. I'm urging legislators to oppose the bill like the Hashmi bill and amendments that could further erode parental involvement and religious freedoms. Parents should be the primary educators in their children's lives and the protectors of their children's values. And so this is why we're here, to protect diverse family values and make sure that our children stay safe. And to the Fairfax County School Board, we really need you to listen. You have been elected. You have been put there to represent our voice. When you chose to make the decision to be on the school board, did you have us in mind or an agenda? And you really need to think about who are you there to represent, because the parents don't want this. Our schools should be partners with parents, not ideological adversaries. And when schools prioritize ideology over education, families like mine will be forced to make a very difficult decision to walk away. And so with that, I will just leave you with the question again. Who are you there to represent? And I hope you will say, I'm here to represent him and me and us. Thank you.
Kaylee, thank you so much. Okay, I'd now like to welcome Chuck Kostall, a father of 3 in Chesterfield County. Chuck?
Good morning. My name is Chuck Kostall. I am a father of 3 in Chesterfield County, two still in public high school. I am here today to advocate on behalf of my daughters and the daughters of all parents in the state of Virginia for a safe, inclusive environment within their school system. All 3 of my daughters have gone through the Chesterfield County Public Schools. This year, a second will graduate K through 12. And this message is as much to Chesterfield County as it is to every other school board that has not adopted the model policies put forth by Governor Youngkin. I moved to Virginia about 21 years ago, and we moved specifically because we had done our research and we saw Virginia as a place that supported families, that allowed for individuality with the ability to still parent the way one felt as though they needed a parent. And that was a great place. That's where we wanted to raise our family. In the last many years, we have seen an erosion of parental rights. Schools no longer appear or act in a manner that partners with parents. There is information that is hidden. There are conversations that are had that are never delivered to the parents. Gone are the days when a school partnered and informed parents what was going on in their children's lives outside of the home. It used to be commonplace when neighbors and school officials and community members had conversations and said, "Did you know your child did this? Do you know that this is going on?" and made us aware. That's common sense. In no way am I trying to leave the school system, but the school system is forcing us away from them at the moment. All of my children have experienced an unsafe environment at school as it relates to their spaces. Their spaces are their bathrooms, their restrooms, and their locker rooms, their sport fields. In no way is it is difficult to accept that a boy be in a space with privacy and sexuality attached to it, right? It is unconscionable that my daughter would have to make a decision on whether or not to use a restroom in privacy or to forego that, whether or not to change for a class or a sporting event, or to not participate because of the fear of retribution for doing so. My ask is very simple. State legislatures, local government officials, partner again with parents. Bring back common sense. Protect our daughters in the spaces that they need protected from. And again, partner with us. Share the information. Do not withhold information from us. And with that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chuck. And last but not least, we have Joanna Penfield, a longtime homeschooling mom of 7 children residing in Goochland County. Joanna? Oh, right here.
Good morning. My name is Joanna Penfield, and I am a proud resident of Goochland County. I'm so thankful to be standing here before you today to champion the rights of homeschool families of our great Commonwealth of Virginia. Over the last few weeks, for families like mine who choose to homeschool under religious exemption, freedom hung in the balance when Senate Bill 1031 was introduced. Thankfully, due to the overwhelming response from freedom-loving parents and homeschool advocates, our lawmakers heard our collective voice and wisely decided to no longer pursue this legislation that would negatively affect all homeschoolers, guaranteeing that the freedom to practice our religion as we see fit was upheld. Thomas Jefferson, one of the greatest, most brilliant minds in our country's history, wrote the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom, which was adopted in 1786. It stated that no one shall suffer on account of his religious opinion or belief, but that all men shall be free to profess and by argument to maintain their opinions in matter of religion. This ensures that the state of Virginia recognizes and values the religious rights of every citizen. Our family's homeschooling story did not start in Virginia. We were living and homeschooling in Washington State when we came to visit my brother's family who lives in Powhatan County. We witnessed the freedoms and opportunities that they had as homeschoolers, and we decided to pick up and relocate across the country to Virginia. We've now been homeschooling our 7 children under religious exemption for the last decade. Our oldest son graduated from college at age 20 and is in graduate school. Our second son is 3 years into an electrician apprenticeship. We are immensely grateful for the freedom we have in Virginia to home educate our children in a way that best suits each child, while adhering to our religious conviction that it is we the parents who have that sole responsibility. As we contemplate the educational futures of our remaining 5 school-age children, we pray that these basic religious and parental rights will not be infringed upon by our state government. Religious freedom and the practice thereof is a fundamental right of every Virginian that should be cherished and protected. May Virginia continue to honor and uphold Thomas Jefferson's founding vision of religious freedom, including that to homeschool, for all its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. And finally, today, we'd like to bring up Victoria Cobb, President of the Family Foundation, who will provide a summary statement and be happy to take any questions from members of the media. Victoria.
Well, first of all, let me just say thank you all for being here. I believe so much more could be said, but nothing will top the stories that you're hearing from these parents. It's easy for lawmakers to get isolated during the General Assembly and to forget why what they're doing matters. And what they're doing matters because you matter, because you are here. It is the people for whom they are doing it that is why it matters. Last week, the Senate was reminded by the homeschool community that their parents' right to teach their own children is sacrosanct. Today, we brought some additional parents to the table. These are the people that their policies will actually affect. We want to thank the lawmakers here on Capitol Hill who have stood strong, who have been unwavering advocates and defenders of the nuclear family and parental rights. When families are strong, our Commonwealth is strong. Any assault on the rights of parents is a direct assault on the foundation of our great state. To those who have opposed measures that would safeguard and support Virginia families, our message to you is, it is not too late. You still have time to hear the stories and take action. To not act is to act. To not speak is to speak. I still have yet to find a good reason as to why we should allow boys to compete against girls in female sports. Yet, a majority here at the General Assembly is unwilling to do anything. And in some cases, like on the House side, even give the bill, the legislation to stop that, a simple hearing. We must ask ourselves, why is that? We must ask ourselves, why is the House of Delegates majority leadership unwilling to even give a hearing to a bill like Sage's Law that would prevent schools from standing as a barrier between the love of their parents and their own children? Why would the House be unwilling to hear a Help Not Harm bill, legislation that would prevent $1 billion industry from exploiting our children that struggle with confusion over their biological sex? I'll just share, it isn't the job of the federal government to get VCU, UVA, and the Children's Hospital of the King's Daughters to stop mutilating our children. It is the job of the body here at the General Assembly to protect our kids, a job they have failed to do, requiring others to step in and help our kids. The common thread between all these bills that were refused the democratic process is that the public stands firmly behind these initiatives, and the elected officials, the elected Democrat leadership in particular, holds a contrary and extreme view on these measures. Why did the Senate at least give a basic hearing to these bills and not the House? Might it possibly be that the Senate is not up for re-election this year, but the House is? By refusing to bring forth these bills, legislators don't have to reveal how extreme they are, because these issues enjoy support, overwhelming support from their own constituents. They never have to vote directly against it if they never have to hear the bill. And so our closing call to legislators is this: it is not too late. There is still time. There's still time for you to become an advocate for these parents in our Commonwealth. There's still time for you to safeguard the innocence of our children as you ponder the remaining bills before you. There's still time to ensure that schools don't pit parents against child and choose instead to come alongside and assist parents in the education of their children. As a mom of 4, this is personal to me. There's a type of love that no one can understand until they have their own children. A love that would push them to crawl over glass for their own child, attend any school board, and knock any door in order to safeguard and protect them. This is a universal love, one shared by almost every parent for their own child. And that is what has brought them here today. So now we'll take a couple of questions, or maybe even one. We're a little bit tight on the time that we're allowed for this press conference. Only from the media. If there's anybody in the media that still has an unanswered question, be happy to take that at this time. Yes.
Do you have any comments about the addictive social media platform bill requiring parental consent for minors?
Yeah, we support any opportunity for a parent to jump in and help protect their child. It's critically important. These are hard issues when we get into the digital space. These are new. Every legislature is sort of battling through them. But anytime we can put the parent in the driver's seat, that's going to be a win. How we do that, how we work that out, tough things. But we believe that that is fundamental, and we know. I think social media for a little while was a fun experiment, and now we know how it goes. It is overall very harmful depending on how it's used and what age and appropriateness, and so it's very good for a parent to be able to shepherd their child through the entrance of the technology platforms that they are going to encounter. All right, anything else? All right, thank you guys so much. We're so grateful.